Are we cursed because of the mistakes of Adam and Eve, as the Christians would have us claim? Today, I want to discuss the story of Adam and Eve from an Islamic perspective. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Hello, everyone. The story of Adam and Eve in the Quran begins with God proclaiming to the angels that He is about to put a sovereign caretaker on earth. This sovereign caretaker will have free will. So the angels rightly object that, are you going to put someone on earth that will spread corruption and spill blood? God replies to the angels that, I know what you do not know. And he teaches Adam the names of certain human beings that will use their free will in a good way. He presents images or pictures or shows the angels these human beings in a certain way and asks them to tell him the names of these human beings. They proclaim their ignorance and say that they submit to the knowledge of God. This is the beginning of the creation of mankind from an Islamic perspective. Once Adam is created, God orders a jinn, which is kind of a demonic figure in Islam, and his name is Iblis. He tells Iblis to bow down to Adam, an act usually reserved for the Almighty. We as Muslims only bow down to God, usually. We don't bow down to any other human beings. But God orders this person, Iblis, to bow down to Adam. Iblis says no, he will not bow down to Adam. And he even presents a reason. He says that you made me from fire, as we as Muslims believe that jinns were created from fire. And Adam is created from clay. Why would I bow down to something created from dirt, from mud? God says to Iblis, it is not appropriate for you to be arrogant in my presence, and you must leave. He is exiled from the presence of God. In this way, the test of humanity is being analogized in this story. We as Muslims believe that this life is a test. It is not that we have fallen from the original sin and are all cursed because Adam and Eve ate an apple from a tree, and now we are all sinners and can only be saved by Christ. We do not believe this. Our life is a test, and God tests two things: our knowledge and our action. In this test, many things come to play. The first is pride and arrogance, sometimes termed ego. Iblis, in this way, showed arrogance to God by not obeying his command. And that is the first test which we must face as human beings, according to the story of Adam and Eve. The Prophet Muhammad speaks about arrogance in one of his recorded sayings. About what is this arrogance, it is mentioned that it is belittling people and rejecting the truth. Will we then reject the truth simply because it comes from someone that we do not respect? Will we lie because we believe that we can get away with it and this person is simply silly and will believe anything that we will say? In the Adam and Eve narrative, when Iblis is exiled from the presence of God, his arrogance and pride delude him to such an extent that he even says that God is the one that caused him to error. This shows how pride and arrogance can lead to such an extent of self-delusion that even if one is in the presence of God, he can delude himself with what is incorrect. It is essential to note that Iblis in this story was not an atheist. It was not like he did not believe in God. He was in God's presence. But this arrogance and pride in him, which led him to defy the command of God, led him to be exiled from his presence. After Iblis is exiled from the presence of God, Adam and Eve are put into a garden in which they can eat whatever they please and spend their days in happiness. But they are given one rule: not to eat from a tree. Iblis appears to Adam and Eve, whose name in Arabic is now Shaitan, as the devil, which most people will be acquainted with. and says to them that if they eat from this tree, they will have achieved angelic forms and eternal life. So Adam and Eve eat from this tree. After they eat from this tree, it is said in the Quran that their private parts become apparent to them, and they try to cover themselves with leaves from the garden that they were living in. This second test that is a part of the test of this life is the test of lust, the test of desire. This is a test which makes a person lose all of his senses, doing anything to satiate what he feels. A prophetic tradition mentions the state that a man finds himself when he commits this act, that faith departs from him as if it was a cloud overhead, and when he completes the act, it returns to him. This is the story of Adam and Eve in the Quran. It does not claim that we have some sort of original sin and are all impure as per our creation. This life is a test, we live it, and these are the difficult questions that we will have to answer and be judged on the Day of Judgment. My name is Ahmed Shoaib, a medical student at the University of Oxford. Thanks for watching.